Thanks for joining us today. I'm glad everybody is able to spend a couple minutes and go through recent product updates. We've been working with our customers, of course, and taking in feedback and prioritizing things accordingly. So we're happy to share this update with you. What we'll do in this webinar is cover recent product releases. Ram will kind of talk through some of the recent product updates and talk over some screens that we can share with you. Then we'll cover some of the upcoming releases, some of the plans that we have that'll touch the roadmap in the near horizon. And then we'll go into some of the roadmap that's kind of further along, further out. So we'll kind of give a peek into the future there. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with any questions you have. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Ram. Of course, Ram is our head of product. So we're happy to have him go through these product releases. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Ram.
Yep, fantastic. Thanks, Jared, and thanks everybody for joining in. Always excited to talk to customers and share what we're doing on your behalf. So the first thing we'd like to get into for our recent releases is the updates we've made to the operations views and outage tracking. If you can play the video, Jared. So in this release, we've basically made two updates to the customer experience. One is we've enabled you to deep dive your operational KPIs very easily to understand what might be going wrong. And two is we've improved the granularity of the outage tracking that we provide. So when you click your operation view in the app user feature, you can get directed to a chart where the KPIs are on the left-hand side and the users who are contributing to KPIs are at the bottom. So if you want to deep dive, let's say the drive distance, if it's going up, you can click that and see who's got the highest drive distance and why that KPI might be not trending the way you expect it to. Similarly, if you click on the outage chart, you can now see a very detailed view of what the distribution of different outage types are in your fleet. And you can select any one which is color-coded by the type of outage to figure out which of your app users is actually having that outage. And then you can drive operational improvements and behavior changes to make sure that those aren't sort of impacting you again in the future. Because outage rate, tracking outages are one of the prime drivers of blind spots in the field. And if you want to actually, in remediation use cases, maybe end up seeing what an app user was going through and when the outage occurred, you can click on their row and get to that stage where you see the overall timeline and understand what was happening when the outage occurred. So basically, yeah, I think we really want to make it easy for our operations managers to deep dive into operational issues for KPIs and also track outages really well. And those are the two things that we delivered in the last cycle.
Excellent. So do you find that customers are often using these services to help with remediation? Is that one of the influences in this product, in this feature?
Yeah, so we're seeing people interact with the outage rate charts, especially as well, where they can tell which user is having which type of outage. And our documentation on the website has a lot of interventions that you can basically talk to your fleet with to improve their tracking rates. And so that's really helping up the tracking rate for customers.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead on to the next feature, which is the order assignment and tracking. What did we do there?
Yeah, if there are any questions on the previous one, we can probably take them now or towards the end. Either way is fine. But yeah, if there's no questions, I can move on. So the second feature we were super excited to talk about are the improvements we've made to the overall order assignment and tracking. As you might be aware, we've started working very actively in the order assignment space as well. So one of the key trends we're seeing in the market is that a lot of customers used to have scheduled orders, which were planned based on a schedule. All the drivers were allocated, and then the next morning, when the orders needed to be dispatched, they'd have to manage driver schedules, see who attended and who didn't, and then manage all that on the fly. But with the gig worker economy increasing, we're now seeing folks want to get into scheduled deliveries with on-demand dispatch, and that's what HyperTrack seamlessly sort of makes possible. So if you want to play the video, I can talk through how we do that. So the first thing we need to understand is how you can create routes for scheduled orders. And so you basically need to use our trips endpoint and post your orders to it with all the details like what is the address of the order, what is the capacity it will take, what's the service time that it's expected to have, and set the routing flag to be true so that HyperTrack knows we're supposed to create the routes for this set of orders. We'll return back with the URL where you can fetch the orders when they're ready. We'll also send you a webhook so you can proactively get it as you need to. And once you do that, we'll show that in the next screen. So yeah, getting the routes is a fairly simple request. Each route you'll get will have its own ID, and it'll come with the overall route time and route distance, and also the expected start time for you to make sure that all the orders in that route will meet their SLA. And the orders of the route will be sequenced in the order in which they need to be delivered. So that's how they can be tracked. So now that you know what the route is and what the orders are and when it needs to be started, the next job would be to find a driver near the time when the order needs to be dispatched so that you can make sure you meet your delivery time. And HyperTrack's nearby search makes that super easy with routes. You can simply enter the route ID and the search radius, and we'll return any members of your fleet who sorted by ETA from the point of the order. And then you can make additional choices on your side, like if you want to distribute the work to your gig workers evenly and choose one worker over the other, or if you have specifications like which type of car needs to be selected for this order, you can make that selection and finally decide which order to dispatch it to. And then once you want to dispatch the order, you now have the route and you have the driver ID. So you can essentially call our trips endpoint again with those details, and that will basically enable live tracking of the order, which you'll then go and see in your HyperTrack UI in the assignments dashboard. We'll see that in a minute in the screen. So yeah, here you can see that the trip is now in an ongoing status. And if you select it, you'll see basically the list of orders that are part of that trip and the live tracking view. This can all help. And again, if there are any customer queries or if you want to find out the status of the order, you can simply come here and support any queries and monitor your orders. So yeah, this has been super exciting to work on. And I think the transition from planned deliveries to on-demand dispatch of planned routes is a interesting one, and I think something that our customers are really liking.
Nice. And now, what kind of use cases are you seeing this in? Is this mostly for in retail, like e-commerce, or are there other specific use cases that you're seeing here?
Yeah, I think the on-demand delivery is a really sweet spot for this use case, especially I mean, so there are two types, right? There's the on-demand dispatch of scheduled orders and on-demand delivery. So nearby applies to both. And I think, companies that are used to be, scheduled in nature, but are now moving to on-demand, and they need to have that transition be managed in one place with the same sort of quality of service on both sides. Because HyperTrack can offer both in one place, I think that's huge. It just makes them confident that they can have the same level of service in both sides.
Totally, makes sense. Any questions from the group on this one? Okay, cool. We'll go to the next feature here, which is the updates that we did to the Visits app. So yeah, go for it, Ron.
Yeah, if you'd like to play the video, you can go ahead. So the Visits app is basically our no-code solution for customers who want to add location intelligence to last mile logistics. It's an app that's available on Android and iOS. And if you're in a position that you can't actually build an app, you can use this one. This can let your fleet manage order life cycles and track their visits to places of interest for productivity. So when a user receives an order, they'll see a notification like you just saw, and they'll get directed to the order that the route that's been assigned to them with their current location and the order location. They can track their progress to the order location, and when they reach there and they fulfill the order, they can pull it up. They can add the delivery notes, like was it a successful delivery or not, and they can also take any proof of visit, like a picture, which might be needed for customer calls or remediation at a later point in time. They see the order summary, and then they can basically go back and see the next order in line. Now, sometimes your fleet can receive orders that are from outside of HyperTrack. They can simply add that order to their daily route through the add order workflow, where they can search for the order destination, confirm it, and then simply add the order. And now you can see that that's been appended to their route. So they can basically do it in line without having to worry too much. The other thing that Visits app actually supports is tracking visits and productivity for places of interest. So for example, a field service agent or a field sales force, they have areas that they're supposed to service on a periodic basis. And as a company, you want to track where they're going. So the places functionality allows you to do that. You can create new geofences around places of interest, like over here, where you can search, you basically put the pin on a place of interest, add the location type that it is. In this case, it's Village Lake, and tag it with the type of location it is. In this case, it's a warehouse, and add the location radius. So anytime you're within that area of this location, we track your visit, track the time you spent there, track how long you took to get there, and basically help you manage all your productivity analysis in a simple way. So yeah, so for our no-code customers, I think Visits app, again, it offers a lot of rich functionality without having to write a line of code yourself. It's a great way to get started to add location intelligence to last mile logistics.
Wonderful. So you mentioned like a couple of use cases there, and the last one around places of interest was particularly interesting. What can you mention around use cases for that places of interest?
Yeah, it's been amazing to see how folks are using that. So like I said, like field services like for oil and gas plant servicing, or field sales force where sales fleet is supposed to meet like institutional customers on an ongoing basis, are two sort of the standard use cases we've worked with before. But we're now seeing a lot of interesting use cases around scouting of locations, where your field service can, your field fleet can essentially go and find locations for things that you might want to set up, like ATM machines or any other thing, and basically create fences around that, find, track their visits to it. And those kind of use cases are also springing up. So I think as an API company and a sort of core logistics player, sometimes we can't forecast the types of use cases. The customers come up with them on their own, and it's amazing to see that our technology works in those diverse use cases.
Cool. So is that one of the things that made you do this update now? I mean, the Visits app is something that we've had for a while. So one of my question is, why those features? Why now?
Yeah, I think it's really a combination of what we're hearing from customers and where they're going, right? So I think as we hear more about how customers want to use and track their last mile fleet, I think order management became pretty critical, and visit tracking was also pretty critical. So both of those were the things that we focused on and delivered.
Awesome. Any questions from the audience on these? Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead to the upcoming product releases. Here we have some screenshots. So Ram will talk through these, and I'll kind of guide us through the visuals.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jared. So yeah, one of the things we've heard consistently from customers is that orders are at the heart of any logistics operation, and knowing what orders might be at risk in terms of their fulfillment SLA is of top of mind concern for almost all operational managers at all time. And so what we're now doing is working towards creating an orders at risk view, where you can essentially, in our orders management interface on our dashboard, have a clear call out which of your orders are at risk and why they're at risk and what level of risk they're at. So in this screen, you can see that, there are different types of warnings where, you have the yellow warning and the red warning. The yellow is that your order might not reach on time. Its ETA is increasing, but it's still within the time range, or like the route is deviated a little bit. So there's some risk there. Red means we're forecasting that the order will be delayed, or like a particular constraint might be breached. And so you can proactively take steps to try and remedy these if you would like to change the behavior of the fleet, or maybe set customer expectations so you can ensure a warm and fuzzy experience on their side and meet their promise as much as possible. I think, all those actions can be taken. So to do any actions as well, we've made it very easy. We'll be making it very easy when we launch this. So if you click on any order, what you can then see is the full order context. Sorry, would you mind going to the next slide?
Cool.
Yeah, so when you click on any order that's at risk, you can see the full order context with the driver in case you need to reach out to the driver, the map view, and all the actions that you can take on the order at the bottom. So in case you need to reschedule it or reassign it to somebody else, or cancel or complete it, as the case may be, you can take those actions right in line over here and maintain a high sort of SLA adherence.
Awesome. So you mentioned SLA adherence. I mean, that's definitely something that that folks need to pay attention to when it comes to, ensuring that the technology is aligned with that. Are there any other sort of KPIs that you could think of that will be accessed or be supported by features like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we'd like to get to a state where we can add a lot of richness around the types of constraints that orders need to be delivered in. And so, for example, for food items, there are cold chain related constraints that you need to adhere to. For operational reasons, there are constraints around what time can the driver come back to the warehouse and deposit the goods that may not have been delivered. So all those constraints can start being built into this and provide very rich calls to action, so that customers can then decide how they want to deal with ground reality whenever reality doesn't play out as they expected. So I think managing orders on time and fulfillment rates on time in the SLA is really the main thing here. And yeah, we expect customers to add more and more constraints around what they'd expect to flag in action.
Fantastic. So I'll move to the next one. We can cover questions at the end of this section. How about the editing, being able to edit routes? This is interesting here as far as more real time features.
Yeah, so building on our last screen, which was at the at-risk view, we're also adding the new orders view, which summarizes all the orders that a company or a customer is tracking and includes the ones that are routed. And I'll just walk through sort of the route editing workflow that we're working towards. And so in this list, you can see that the top set of orders have not been routed yet, but the bottom set of orders have been. And so if you need to edit a route anywhere, it's very easy to do in line over here. So if you click on it and move to the next slide, yeah, you'll see, again, a very similar view to what we saw earlier about what the context of the order is. In this case, it's the singleton order that's part of the route. If you want to view the routes, you can essentially click the View Route button, and that takes you to the route editing workflow, which again shows you the map and shows you all the list of orders. You can then add, edit, delete, or resequence the orders if you feel that a customer may have called in and said, hey, I need my order sooner rather than later, and there's some slack in some of the other orders. Then an operational manager can take that call on the fly to update the route. And that just, again, enables you to have all the context you need to make a decision and improve your overall SLA for your orders.
Cool. Definitely seems like you're kind of building, support for more dynamic activities in terms of, helping operations managers respond to what's actually happening on the ground. So that's obviously very helpful.
Yep.
Any questions about the upcoming releases before we move on to the roadmap?
Yeah, I've got a question actually regarding the routes at risk. What are you doing to determine, or I guess, can your clients determine what is deemed at risk by setting custom metrics to determine what appears in that list? Or are those your KPIs as to what determines at risk? For example, some clients may not consider an order that's scheduled to arrive at 10 a.m., row number 1, it's expected at 9:50, the actual revised ETA is 9:55. If a customer doesn't want to see that because it's still in time, for example, it's still on time, do we have the ability to customize the criteria that determines what appears in that filtered list?
Yeah, great question. So to start off with, we'll absolutely be building towards that. To start off with, we're going to be using the ETA that's in the order as the sort of benchmark to decide what's at risk, and anything that's forecasted to complete after the ETA, after the expected completion time, will be flagged as risk. But yeah, I think as a longer term, we want to be able to provide you the ability to define rules where you can say, this is what I would consider risk and not, and you can add and change the defaults. That might be our opinion on it as a first pass, just to sort of get out of the blocks. But yeah, you can absolutely, we'll be able to add rules, and we'd love to understand from you more, what are the types of rules you'll typically like to add, because we can build those flexibilities in.
What I guess the follow-up to my first question with regards to at-risk orders. If I have, I'm assuming looking at this, all these orders are destined for one driver or a different group of drivers. If I have one driver that has 10 orders scheduled on them, and orders 1 through 7 are on time, but order number 8 is now going to be delayed because of predictive traffic. Some delays that have occurred over the course of the first X amount of orders have delayed order number 8, and that order is now running behind. Is that going to show up in the at-risk orders, say 5 or 6 hours in advance, or is this only showing essentially an at-risk next stop?
No, so we dynamically calculate the ETAs for the orders of a route. And so if there are delays up front, then they'll push back the ETAs for all the orders in the list. And whenever there's a breach of the expected breach of time, it'll show up at risk over here. So that'll absolutely get flagged as soon as we know it.
Very good. Looking forward to this.
Awesome.
Wait, so we'll cover the roadmap topics, and then we'll hop to any other questions that might be in the chat after that. So maybe you can just kind of hit the highlights on this,
yeah,
Ram, as we have here, and give folks some info and ETAs and kind of give a little future insight.
Sure, happy to. So here are some of the most exciting features we're working on right now. So one is nearby availability, which is basically the easiest way for any business to onboard their entire fleet for on-demand order dispatch. It's super simple. You have our SDK, and whenever your fleet, like a gig worker fleet member is available, you essentially call the available method in our SDK, which signifies to HyperTrack that this person's available, and we then manage tracking their location intelligently. Anytime you have an on-demand order, you can basically call the nearby search, and we'll return to you the nearest driver sorted by ETA. It's very similar to what exists right now, but in this case, it's going to be a lot easier for you to essentially call this method, and we expect it to be much lower latency as well. So super excited to have this running, and we have some excited customers who are expecting to adopt this right off the bat in early Q2.
Cool.
Then there is the guided onboarding part, which we're working on as well. So as most of us on the call would know, logistics workflows can be fairly complex, and which features are the most relevant for the immediate business pain are often a process of discovery. And so through guided onboarding, we're expecting to implement workflows where we can ask customers about their most pressing business goals, and then present to them the features that are most relevant for them to solve that in a guided and curated way. So they don't need to worry about any of the other feature sets. They can essentially go directly to what would solve the pain for them the most and get started there. And then as business plays out, they can explore and learn about other features and see how they could help them meet their goals. So that'll be another exciting update to our early experience for our customers. And finally, on the ML side, we're in the process of developing the location learning functionality, where for any customer who manages a large address book of their consumers, the customer's address is typically related with a lot of other addresses, like where should a delivery person park for that customer, what's the actual fulfillment point or doorstep of that customer. And discovering those over time can lead to a lot of intelligence that sits in the system that can be reused to make your business more efficient. So by learning these relevant locations and enriching your customer address with these relevant locations, so that you can automatically direct your delivery drivers or fulfillment drivers to the right location at the right time, can absolutely improve last mile efficiency and increase resource utilization. So that's another exciting feature we're working on in its early stages, and we expect to have that out in Q2.
Nice. So it seems like there's a lot of things coming down the pike here, where we have better alignment between the business and technology infrastructure in terms of like the guided onboarding experience, kind of a better dispatch and on demand, kind of more flexible dispatch with nearby availability, and also kind of better delivery operational efficiency when it comes to the location learning piece. So those are really cool categories, that we're improving upon, and to help last mile delivery. When you look at kind of what we've done recently, are there any other kind of larger themes that stand out to you that you want to communicate to our users?
Yeah, I think, overall, we're, constantly improving our product through feedback from our customers. I think a big focus area for us is on the operations experience. And like we saw in our video of the app user sort of deep dive metrics, we've now launched that for a few of the other features as well, like geofences, geotags, orders, and nearby, and we'll be getting those done by end of quarter. So again, helping people get to actionable information fast is sort of the theme that we're going after, and we're making good progress on that.
Cool. And a lot of that, those, helping operations folks make those better decisions and have the better data. There's like a double hit in terms of benefit there with the customer experience as well. So it looks like we have some. Do we have some questions in the chat?
Yeah, I've actually got a question about the location learning, the third point on the planned releases. You made mention of last mile. I assume, or can I assume, this intelligence, ML intelligence, will also apply to the first mile as well?
How do you mean exactly?
Well, I mean, my terminology, last mile is the delivery portion of the order. I'll use the food example, the gig economy food worker delivering lunch to a worker in an office building, knowing where to park, knowing which doorway to go into. But there's also a delay we've seen on the logistics side of things, or an inefficiency in drivers locating the pickup location. So it's not necessarily as obvious or as prevalent in the restaurant industry, where you're going to a preset of defined restaurants. You as XYZ food company has 30 restaurants or 100 restaurants as your customers. Your drivers get used to those 100 restaurants and where they are, and whether I go to the back door, the front door, stuff like that. In a corporate environment, when you're moving letters, packages, envelopes, the likelihood of you returning to that same location on a frequent basis is directly attributed to the volume of work that customer has. Our drivers, for example, on a given business day, maybe 10% of our pickup locations are the same location a driver would have previously gone to in the past 7 days. So we're always visiting new locations. And a lot of the times we find that drivers waste time, or there's time that can be recaptured through better efficiencies on the first mile instead of the last mile. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, basically any order location is where the intelligence will start getting gathered. So yeah, last mile, I mean, last mile is a little sort of overloaded in that sense. Any pickup location that you service would start learning from its past behavior in terms of the location enrichment. So absolutely. And if that's something you're actively working on, we'd love to engage with you deeper on the side to sort of have like a design for that solution with you and work on it.
We've actually Ram, reach out to me privately, we'll talk.
Awesome. Yep, sounds good.
Cool, thanks for that question and insight, Eric. Any other questions, comments out there?
I see Shiv has made some comments in the chat. Hey, Shiv. Maybe he's dropped it. Oh, he's still there. Yeah, I think a lot of interesting comments from Shiv in the chat. Yeah, thanks a lot, Shiv, for your contributions here.
No doubt. Cool. Good. Yeah. Thanks for coming through. So yeah, I guess we can wrap it up here. Unless you have any other comments, Ram.
No, I think thanks everybody for calling in, and it was really great to interact and share what we're working on and what's coming up. Thanks again for your engagement, and we always love interacting with our customers. So thanks a ton.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Eric.
One quick thing, just before you guys finish off. One of the things we noticed with the new SDK, the Android platform, the file size has increased significantly on a built package. I don't know if that's something you guys are working towards minimizing, but we went from an built package size of about 6 megabytes to about 60 megabytes. Just by upgrading to the 6X XDK from 545.
Got it. Yeah, let's follow up on that offline. I know the team was working on some solutions to reduce the size, but yeah, let's follow up on that offline.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for hosting this, guys. Informative as always. Always happy to be a participant and join. Thank you for the great work you guys do. We really appreciate it.
For sure. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate
Eric.
your feedback and you being a customer for a long time as well. It's definitely helped influence our roadmap and our activities. So we appreciate it. And thanks everyone else for joining. This is recorded, so we will share the recording on Slack and reach out to us if you have any questions. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.